I always mess things up at work. That sentence doesn't show up screaming. It comes in quietly, low in the back of your mind, almost like a fact, not an opinion. It slips in early in the morning, when you're still holding your mug staring at a blank screen. It comes back mid-afternoon, when an email runs late, when someone takes too long to reply, when a small mistake shows up. And it lies down with you at night, while your body tries to sleep and your mind starts running a report of everything you could have done better. You feel it first in your stomach, a tightness that feels familiar. Your chest gets a little heavier. Your shoulders rise a few millimeters, almost too small to notice. Your breathing shortens, and before you even realize it, you're already pushing yourself before the day has even begun. Stay with me. By the end, you're going to see the first day this sentence turned into a law inside you. And more than that, you'll start to notice something important. It isn't you. It's a system that learned to squeeze you tight because it thought that was the only way to keep you safe. This isn't a fast video. It's a slow crossing. It's not a talk about productivity, not a list of techniques to beat anxiety or master your mind. We're going to walk back slowly to where this sentence began. We're going to look at the price it charges, from your body, your sleep, your joy, your work, and then we'll walk through 30 days of small concrete practice. No positive thinking, no waking up motivated, no becoming a different person, because the anxiety you feel at work didn't come out of nowhere. This inner pressure isn't weakness, it's an old alarm, one programmed to prevent pain, criticism, humiliation, loss. And today that alarm repeats one thing: I always mess things up at work. You might never say those exact words out loud. Maybe your version sounds like, I never do enough. They're going to find out I'm a fraud. If I relax, everything will fall apart. But underneath, the message is the same. If you stop pushing yourself, something very bad will happen. On the outside, you look functional, you work, you deliver, you answer messages, you sit in meetings. Sometimes people even call you responsible, competent, committed, but inside, the bar never lowers. Your mind tracks every detail, every email, every expression from your boss, every silence in the group, collecting evidence that you could have done more. This anxiety doesn't live only in your thoughts. It lives in your body, in tiny gestures, in your sleep schedule, in the way you open your laptop. And today, we're going to walk inside that, slowly. Michael wakes up at 6:20 when his alarm goes off. He doesn't open his eyes right away. He lies there for a few seconds, trying to negotiate with his own body. His chest is already slightly tight before he even remembers what he has to do that day. When he finally grabs his phone, the screen lights up. Unread messages, emails, meeting alerts, nothing urgent, but his body reacts as if it is. His hand feels a little colder. He swallows. Before he even gets out of bed, the sentence is already there, so automatic he barely notices. I can't mess up today. And hidden inside it, a quieter sister. I always mess things up at work. He gets up, goes to the kitchen, puts water on to boil. While the coffee brews, his mind is already at the office. He remembers the file he hasn't finished, the meeting with his manager, a comment from weeks ago. We need more speed on these deliveries, guys. He heard guys, but inside his head, it translated into, you're holding everything back. The coffee is ready, but he barely tastes it. He drinks fast, scrolling notifications. Part of him wants to sit a little longer, just breathe. Another part answers immediately. If you relax now, everything piles up. Don't complain later. On the way to work, he thinks about the day like it's an exam. Not a list of tasks, a test, a secret test to see if he can finally get through a day without failing. It feels like someone, somewhere, is taking notes. Every delay, every hesitant reply, every doubt. On the bus, he opens his email. There's no criticism, just requests, but his chest tightens like it's an accusation. He makes himself a promise. Today, I'll perform. Today, I won't make a single mistake. That promise gives him a small burst of energy for a few minutes, but in truth, it's just another layer of pressure, because if he can't keep it, the blame comes back, stronger. When he gets to work, he says good morning, drops his bag in the corner. No one is yelling at him, no one is pointing fingers. But inside, the whole place feels like a silent courtroom. He opens his computer. The task list appears. Automatically, his eyes go straight to what's overdue, not to what he's already done. His body responds. Short breathing, tense muscles, jaw tight. Time suddenly feels faster. Michael starts a task. 5 minutes later, he thinks, what if I'm doing this wrong? He opens another tab, checks old instructions, confirms, goes back. It takes longer than he wants. The sentence returns, slightly reshaped. Of course, this takes me forever. I always make things harder than they need to be. This is almost every day. He doesn't explode. He doesn't cry in the bathroom. He doesn't have visible breakdowns. His anxiety is quiet, functional, adapted to the environment. That's why almost no one notices, but his body does. By midweek, his sleep gets worse. He goes to bed late, takes longer to slow down. His mind replays the day like it's editing a video. The pause he took to drink water, the reply that came 2 minutes late, a message from his manager that wasn't harsh at all, but he still wonders, was he irritated? When he lies down, it doesn't feel like rest. It feels like the pressure continues. The internal alarm never really turns off. And that sentence, I always mess things up at work, starts to feel more and more true. Not because it's a fact, but because the alarm repeats it until it becomes background music. This alarm doesn't shout. It whispers. It arrives like a logical thought, like responsibility, like common sense. It says, if you don't push yourself, you'll lose your job. If it's not perfect, they'll replace you. If you make a mistake, people will see who you really are. But in the beginning, a long time ago, this voice showed up to protect you. This isn't weakness. That thought didn't come out of nowhere. It was trying to protect you from something that once felt far too big to handle. Maybe it was a moment at school, a teacher scolding you because an assignment wasn't done the way they expected. Maybe it was a careless comment at an old job. If you can't handle pressure, you don't belong here. Maybe it was at home, hearing over and over, you have to be the best, otherwise no one will respect you. Somewhere along the way, in some quiet moment of your past, a shadow inside you made a rule. If I keep pushing myself, I'll never feel that shame again. If I never relax, I'll never risk being humiliated again. This part of you isn't bad, it's exhausted, but it truly believes it's saving you. In Michael's case, this shadow has a memory. He was about 12 years old. He did a simple school project, thought it was good enough. He walked into class excited to present. He stumbled a little, forgot one part. The teacher made a sharp comment in front of everyone. You didn't prepare, did you? It shows. The class laughed softly. From the outside, it wasn't a huge humiliation, but inside him, it was enormous. His face burned, his heart raced, he wanted to disappear. When he got home, he heard something like, if you had tried harder, this wouldn't have happened. It wasn't cruelty, it was how they thought they were teaching him. But in that moment, another law was carved inside him. Mistakes mean exposure. Exposure means shame and criticism. So to never make mistakes again, I have to watch myself all the time. Without realizing it, that part of him received a name, Marcus. Marcus is the shadow that believes safety only exists when everything is perfect. Marcus is the part that watches, pushes, double-checks, and anticipates criticism before it even arrives. He doesn't want to ruin Michael's life. He wants to make sure Michael never again feels that moment of standing exposed, judging himself in front of everyone. The shadow has a name, and when it has a name, it loses power. Not because it disappears, but because it stops being a faceless monster. It becomes something you can look at and quietly say, I know what you're trying to do for me. But over time, Marcus went too far. He doesn't know how to measure. He treats every email like that school presentation, every meeting like a test to justify Michael's right to be there, every pause like laziness, every doubt like proof of incompetence. The alarm he carries works like this. If I ease up, everything collapses. If I relax for one day, I'll lose respect, position, security. So he keeps Michael in constant tension, in the body, a stiff neck, headaches, chronic fatigue, in the mind, anticipating problems, trying to predict everything, unable to switch off. In small daily choices, checking email after hours, replying too fast, saying yes without thinking, postponing rest. That inner pressure is Marcus trying to save him, but in trying to protect him from any pain, Marcus ends up not letting him breathe. There is another part inside Michael. It has always been there. just quieter. This part isn't overly optimistic. It doesn't say everything will be fine like magic. It doesn't ignore fear. It looks directly at fear and says, I see you, but I am not you. Let's call this part Sophia. Sophia isn't perfect. She isn't the voice that says trust the universe, while real life demands deadlines, targets, bills. Sophia is the opposite archetype of Marcus. She doesn't shut off the alarm. She learns to hear it without automatically obeying it. She shows up like this. Michael is at his computer, facing a simple task. The thought appears, if I mess this up, they'll see I'm incompetent. Marcus slams the anxiety pedal. Sophia doesn't fight him. She doesn't push a positive thought. She doesn't say, no, you're amazing, everything will work out. She answers differently. Okay, I see the fear. I hear the sentence. But what exactly do we need to do in the next 10 minutes? She brings the focus back to something small, something possible, without promising nothing bad will happen, without promising perfection. The shift isn't, I'm going to stop thinking that I might mess everything up. The shift is, even while thinking I might mess everything up, I can still do one small part of the task. The thought stops being a command. It becomes information, a signal that says, there's fear here, not an order that says, run, freeze, overwork, push yourself until exhaustion. One specific day, Michael tries to practice this. He has a small presentation for his team. The night before, his sleep is restless. On the way to work, his stomach feels heavy. At his desk before the meeting, the sentence arrives, you're going to forget everything. They'll see you're weak. Marcus is in full panic. He suggests, pretend you're sick, ask someone else to present, or talk really fast, just get it over with. Sophia doesn't argue. She just reminds Michael of 3 simple things. Take 3 slow breaths. Look at one person at a time while speaking. Accept that he might stumble a little and continue anyway. He walks into the meeting still afraid. His hand is still sweating. His heart is still racing. He didn't become a different person, but this time, even with the voice saying, I'm going to mess everything up, he moves through it. In the middle of the presentation, he trips over a sentence. Someone laughs at something unrelated, but his mind instantly reads it as criticism. For a second, his body wants to freeze. Marcus shouts inside, see? I told you. Sophia shows up quietly. You stumbled, and you can still continue. He takes a breath, picks up the thread again, and keeps going. It isn't brilliant, it isn't perfect, but it happens. When it's over, no one applauds in slow motion. This isn't a movie. Some co-workers comment on something else, and the day moves on, but something very small has shifted inside him. He crossed through the fear instead of trying to eliminate it before acting. Later, his mind still tries to judge. You stumbled. It could have been better. The old reflex would be to sink into that. This time, Sophia places a quiet hand on his shoulder. Yes, it could have been better, but it also could have never happened. The fact is, you showed up. That isn't positivity. It's the full reality, not just the harsh slice of it. A few days later, he has a relapse. The week gets heavy. Deadlines pile up. One task goes wrong. His boss sends a short, blunt message. Marcus comes back at full force. I knew it. You eased up, and now you're failing. Deal with it. Michael spends 2 full days in the old mode, working late, eating fast, heart racing, barely breathing. Sophia feels silent. On the 3rd night in the shower, he notices, I went back to autopilot. Instead of attacking himself for it, he tries something different. He thinks, of course I did. I lived like this for years. I'm not changing in a week. That absence of punishment is part of the training. A relapse is not proof of failure. It's proof that the old system is still strong. And that isn't weakness. It's history. So he returns to something small, one task at a time, one simple boundary. Today, I won't answer emails after this hour. It doesn't matter if his thoughts scream that everything will fall apart. He makes that tiny agreement with himself. Slowly, he begins to notice the anxiety and the inner pressure don't disappear, but they become voices on the dashboard, not the driver of the car. Look closely. This is where people accidentally strengthen the alarm. The trap isn't feeling anxiety at work, and it isn't having self-critical thoughts. The trap is believing that to feel okay, you must completely eliminate them. Because every time you try to fight the sentence, I always mess things up at work, it grows stronger. You start your day trying to to prove it wrong. You take on too much. You never say no. You stretch your hours. Your body pays the price. And when, inevitably, you can't handle everything, the sentence returns, triumphant, "See, I was right." Another trap, using pressure as fuel. Thinking, if I ease up, I'll become lazy. If I stop criticizing myself, I'll lose focus. It sounds logical. It sounds mature, but it's fear in disguise. You don't need an inner whip to be responsible. Real responsibility comes from clarity, from boundaries, from knowing what's possible today and what isn't. The whip comes from panic. If I don't beat myself, the world will beat me worse. As long as you believe the only way to stay committed is by hurting yourself inside, the alarm will keep blaring because it truly believes it's saving you. Another trap, measuring your worth only by the days you perform a lot. On weeks when you deliver more, stay organized, hit your targets, you treat yourself a little better. On weeks when your body is tired, when your mind feels slower, you become a ruthless judge. That creates a cruel equation. I only deserve rest when I'm completely exhausted. I only deserve respect when I'm at my limit. But when the limit becomes the rule, it's no longer a limit. It's a prison. And every time you try to control everything so you never make mistakes, you feed the fear of making mistakes. It's like trying not to think about a specific word. The harder you try, the more your mind returns to it. With anxiety and inner pressure, the same thing happens. Direct, harsh fighting, I can't feel this, I can't think this, only increases vigilance. And constant vigilance is exactly what keeps the alarm ringing day and night. Listen carefully. This is the trap. The more you try to be perfect to get rid of the sentence, "I always mess things up," the more you teach your system that a small mistake really would be the end of the world. The training isn't about proving you never fail. It's about showing in real life that even when you fail sometimes, you still exist, you still work, you still belong. Now, take a breath. Think about 30 days, not as a performance challenge, but as a different relationship with your own mind. There won't be magic rewiring, no promises of permanent cure. There will be practice. 3 small movements, repeated in different ways, noticing the sentence, identifying the fear behind it, acting without fully obeying it. There's one simple truth here. Small steps are what change everything. Day 1 isn't about fixing anxiety at work. It's about noticing that when you open your computer, your body already tightens. Maybe you write somewhere, "When I open email, my stomach tightens," and the sentence that appears is, "I'm going to mess this up again." That's it. No correction, no fixing. In the first days, the focus is simply observing the alarm, seeing when it fires the strongest, before a meeting, after a message from your boss, when you notice a delayed task, when you compare your pace to others, not to blame yourself, but to recognize the pattern. Oh, this is where Marcus takes over. As the days pass, you begin to name the fear behind the sentence, because the thought, "I always mess things up," isn't really about everything. It's about something specific. Fear of being fired, fear of disappointing others, fear of being seen as weak, fear of reliving an old humiliation. In the following days, you can try a simple exercise. When the sentence appears, complete it in your mind. "I always mess things up at work, and the fear behind this is," then let whatever comes, come, no filter. Sometimes the fear will sound like this, that if I make a mistake, no one will want to stay with me. That if I fail, I'll lose everything. That if I lower my guard even a little, I'll be replaced. And that isn't drama. That's the internal logic of the shadow. Then comes the part most people struggle with, acting without obeying the voice. Because many people wait first to feel brave, to feel confident, to feel calm. But the idea is different. You act while the fear is still there, in small steps. Instead of promising yourself you'll work with perfect focus for 8 straight hours, you choose short windows of real presence. For example, for the next 25 minutes, I'll work only on this task. Even if my mind says it's bad, I'll keep going until the timer ends. Or, today I accept that I won't finish everything. I'll choose 3 things that truly matter. and leave the rest for tomorrow, even if my mind calls that irresponsible. On harder days, the smallest action might be different. Today I won't attack myself for being tired. I'll acknowledge that my body is exhausted and still do only the most essential part of my work. In 30 days, the goal isn't to become calm, perfect, ultra-productive, free of negative thoughts. The goal is to become familiar with the pattern, so familiar that you can tell when it's Marcus speaking and when it's Sophia, and little by little, to increase the moments when you choose to listen to Sophia, even when Marcus is louder. Some days will feel like progress, others will feel like setbacks. But that's what this is, a relationship being built, not a perfection project. Let's look at a small, real example, an ordinary day. Nothing special. You wake up on a Tuesday. Check your phone. There's a message from your manager. When you have time, let's align on the status of that project. Your body reacts before your mind understands. Your stomach tightens. Your chest contracts. The sentence appears, "That's it. I messed up again." I'd always screw things up at work. Instead of diving straight into guilt, you grab a piece of paper or your notes app, anything, and you write 3 lines. Line 1, the exact thought, "I always mess things up at work." Line 2, the fear behind it. "I'm afraid he's dissatisfied, afraid of losing my job, afraid they'll see I'm not good enough." Line 3, one concrete action. Before talking to him, I'll spend 15 minutes reviewing what's done, listing what's ready and what's missing. During the conversation, I'll be honest about the real stage of the project without over-explaining. You don't write something pretty, you write what is, exactly as it comes. When the time comes to talk, the fear is still there. Your hand may sweat, your voice may shake, but you're prepared, not to impress, just to be present. He asks about the project. You answer, "These parts are on track. This section is 2 days behind because of this. My plan is to reorganize it like this." He might like it, he might criticize, he might make a serious face you can't interpret. The old reflex would be leaving that meeting thinking, "See, I said everything wrong. I ruined it again." Now you add one layer. "I was afraid of being attacked." I wasn't attacked. I was held accountable. Accountability hurts, but it isn't a death sentence. These tiny adjustments, repeated over time, are what slowly rewrite the importance of the sentence. "I always mess things up." It may still appear, but it stops being the ultimate ruler of reality. Another situation, end of the day, many things unfinished. The alarm rings. "You didn't do anything right today." 3 lines again. Line 1, "I didn't do anything right today." Line 2, "I'm afraid I'm falling behind, afraid I can't meet expectations." Line 3, "I'll list 3 things I actually did today, even small ones, and then I'll close my computer at the agreed time." You're not lying to yourself. You're not pretending it was an amazing day. You're just preventing the alarm from turning "I didn't do everything" into "I did nothing." 1 day at a time, 3 lines at a time. Now, we come back to you. You don't have to fit perfectly into Michael's story. Your situation may look different. Remote work, freelance work, a new job, a company you've been in for years. But the inner structure of self-pressure is similar. There's a shadow that learned to protect you through constant vigilance. That shadow created the sentence that governs you at work. For you, it might sound like, "If I relax, I'll lose everything. If I'm not the best, no one respects me. If I fail once, they'll never trust me again." This shadow isn't an enemy. It just never received an update. It still reacts as if you were 12 years old, in an old environment, with people who may not even be in your life anymore. When you give it a name, something shifts. In our example, it was Marcus. In your life, it might be another name, and whatever comes first to mind, simple, human, and you can say quietly, "Marcus, I know you're trying to protect me. I know that when you repeat that I always mess things up, you think you're preparing me for the worst. But today, I'm going to do something different. I'll listen to you, but I won't obey you in everything." On the other side, there's an opposite part, trainable. In the example, that was Sophia. In your life, it may have another name. It's the part that can look at the same reality, feel the same fear, and still choose one small, concrete, possible step. You don't need to become a different person in 30 days, but in 30 days, you can come to know Marcus very well, and that other part too. And little by little, you can start making decisions from Sophia, not only from the alarm. In the end, it always comes back to this. Not fighting to silence the alarm, but learning to live with it at a lower volume without letting it drive everything. The shadow has a name, and when it has a name, it loses power. If this thought lives inside you too, you're not alone here. Thank you for staying until the end. If at any point you saw yourself in these scenes, if some part of you recognized itself, consider staying close, subscribe, share this with someone who lives under the same pressure, or simply come back on a day when your chest feels heavy again. We keep going together, one day at a time, one small step at a time.